say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. We thank each and every one of you, first of all, individually and all of you together collectively, for allowing the co-creation of this transmission from our reality to yours, from your reality to ours, and in that process, thus then, the creation, the co-creation of a third vibration, a third frequency, a third reality, a new reality in which we can interact together more and more in every way, every day. So we thank you for the gift you are giving to us and our civilization in allowing us to experience all of you in this manner. We would like to begin the following transmission in the following way. We have titled this transmission 15 Minutes and Counting. We will explain why we chose that title in, about 15 minutes. First and foremost, let us say that the whole idea of this transmission, this night of your time, as you know time to exist, is that this is part 1 of the transmission, and tomorrow of your time is part 2 and part 3, thus taking these 3 transmissions, in a sense, as a whole transmission, which in my time and from my dimension and my frame of reference will simply be delivered all at once, with no break. It will simply find its way into your dimension and your time frame when and where it is appropriately timed for the transmission to be received, when the receiver is ready. Time and space in that sense are very flexible, very malleable, as many more of you are now finding out, even in your own reality. Time and space in your reality, as you move forward in your exploration of consciousness and spirituality, are becoming more malleable, more flexible, more plastic, more slippery. Many of you are beginning to realize that you are having different kinds of experiences of space and time now, more synchronicity coming into your lives as you begin to expand your understanding of consciousness, as you begin to live more in the moment, as you begin to realize and manifest the idea of your dream, your passion, your joy, your excitement. This is part and parcel of this whole so-called new age of awareness on your planet, which we are more than happy to assist you in co-creating. The idea of this transmission, specifically, as has been explained to you to some degree already, is to create an understanding of how you create your physical reality, how you have created your physical reality, how you can create your physical reality to be more in alignment, more harmonious, more synchronous with what you prefer it to be. And that this has a lot to do specifically with the receiver in your body, which is what you call your brain. As we have said previously in another transmission, there are 3 stages to the idea of the downloading of informational reality and the experience of reality when it comes to the connection and the relationship between non-physical and physical reality. The higher mind, the higher self, that component of who you are as a person, the non-physical side of your consciousness, as is specifically designed to interact with the physical side of your personality and your consciousness, that downloads energy, information, concepts. That higher mind, in that sense, is the conceiver. And thus then, in delivering that information through the brain, which is the receiver, the antenna, the wiring of the brain then configures that download of information in a manner that is appropriate based on the belief systems in the personality, for the personality to interpret, to receive, and to perceive in physical reality, as physical reality. In other words, the concepts coming from the higher mind are translated through the antenna of the brain into concepts that are then perceived by the physical mind, the physical personality, as your physical reality experience. So if there is something about your physical reality experience that you wish to change, the idea is to understand that it is part and parcel of the way you are receiving the information, the way your brain is interpreting the informational downloads from your higher mind that determines through the belief systems that have wired your brain into a certain configuration exactly how the physical mind is actually capable of perceiving your physical reality experience. Because physical reality is really not solid. It is really only the experience of it that is real, but not the physical reality itself. Physical reality, as you have heard for thousands of years, is just an illusion. But the experience of it is real. And the experience of physical reality is determined by the belief systems and definitions that are hardwired into your brain, into your receiver, into your antenna, and thus then determines exactly how you interpret and how you receive the conceptual downloads coming from the higher mind. So, allowing the brain to be wired in a manner that allows for clear communication, clear connection between physical mind and higher mind is of paramount importance in order to know that you are receiving and interpreting the downloads from higher mind in a manner that is aligned with the idea of intention of higher mind, and in a manner that will allow you then to experience physical reality in a manner that is also aligned with that higher vibration, that higher frequency. So this transmission tonight and tomorrow of your time is designed specifically to help rewire the brain in a manner that makes it more superconductive, more hyperconductive, more receptive of the original, initial, intentional, vibrational frequency of the download from the higher mind, so that it can be interpreted and perceived and experienced by the physical mind in a way that is more in alignment with the higher mind's desire, the higher mind's intention. Because the higher mind's intention is always, 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 always to guide the physical experience in a manner that will allow the physical personality to best realize itself, to best express itself in the most fundamental way, in the most natural way, in the way that is most highly aligned with the highest vibration in creation, which you translate as love, passion, joy, excitement. So when you act on those things in your life, the things that contain the highest amount of joy, passion, excitement, you are thus then most aligned with your true natural core being. However, we understand that many times in physical reality, especially on your planet, you are raised to believe things, certain definitions, certain belief systems about physical reality that do not necessarily allow you the ability, the willingness, the awareness to act on those vibrations and those frequencies coming from your higher mind that are most aligned with your natural true core excitement, joy, passion, and love. So true core excitement, joy, passion, and love. So learning how to allow your brain to rewire itself, learning how to transform those definitions and those beliefs through many different directions is one way to allow you to become a better receiver, a clearer receiver of the information from higher mind, and allow you to experience a physical reality that is more in accord with that idea of your natural, true core excitement, joy, passion, and love. So that is why we will talk about some of the specific mechanisms of the brain tonight, and tomorrow we will deal specifically with the idea of the structure, the nature of the structure of belief systems. We have done a lot of talking about the nature of beliefs and different beliefs, how you can transform them, the many different ways that there are. For all techniques and all tools are simply permission slips. Different rituals are simply permission slips. They give you permission, in a sense. They give yourself permission, in a sense, to be more of who you are. Because the permission slips you are attracted to, the tools, techniques, and rituals you are attracted to, are simply attractive to you because they are most aligned with the belief system within you. So they reveal to you, in a sense, a reason. They seem like a reason, an ability. They give you, in a sense, of permission to grant yourself the ability to be more of who you are. But tomorrow, we will talk very specifically about the nature of the actual structure of beliefs, especially the idea of the negative ones that you many times seem to have a great deal of difficulty changing in your lives. We will literally, in a sense, examine them as if we were using a very powerful X-ray beam to reveal the structure, the skeletal structure of a belief, so that you can then thus, by that revelation, by looking at the X-ray, by looking at the structure, begin to understand how beliefs reinforce themselves, and by being able to see how they do so, beginning to be able to sense where and when you have the ability to empower yourself to change that structure, to use that structure to your positive advantage, and to change and transform those beliefs in positive ways, to start allowing them to work for you, in a sense, instead of against you. We will do that in depth tomorrow of your time. And then, as has been explained, we will utilize the technology of the holotope experience to take what we are talking about tonight of your time and tomorrow morning of your time and synthesize and fuse it together in an experience that will then, with the knowledge we are sharing tonight and tomorrow, help you in that moment, in those 15 minutes within that holotope experience, really truly learn to allow your brain to rewire itself to become highly conducive, highly conductive to the receiving of the energy in a manner that will make it easier for you to examine any beliefs that may seem to be standing in your way, and use that X-ray vision to see what the structure of that belief is and change it on your own. So that each and every one of you at the end of this 3-part transmission will be capable of walking away into your lives, into your reality, with a very powerful permission slip tool that you can apply to any belief system that you wish to change very quickly, very rapidly, very immediately, and get the effect that is more in alignment with your true, natural, core, passionate, loving selves. Does that make sense to you? Yes. All right. Now, before we continue with the specifics of 15 minutes and counting, we would also like to bring up another aspect of your collective consciousness and throw that into the mix, as you say in your language. We have, in previous transmissions, talked about the idea of the different ways that you often have, as a species, to represent certain collective consciousness ideas, certain representations of where your collective consciousness is going, or what it is considering, or what kind of reality it is pondering. Many times, especially in your particular culture, the one we are addressing right now, many times this is done through what you call popular media, popular entertainment. In other words, you create shows that are representative of certain aspects of the collective consciousness desire to change your reality in certain ways, or to examine or explore ideas that the collective consciousness may be dealing with at any given time in its overall transformational agenda. We have mentioned in previous transmissions that one very powerful representation that you created a long time ago, so to speak, in your society that represented certain ideas you were dealing with at the time as a society was the program that you call Star Trek. The idea is that it is representative of many different ideas that are what kind of a reality you prefer, what kind of things you are exploring within yourself, what kind of things you are examining about your beliefs, and how you wish to apply yourselves in your reality. Now, of course, in the acceleration of this age of exploration of consciousness, you have recently also begun to accelerate your examination and your exploration of the idea of the threshold crossing you all call 2012. And this has now been represented, in a manner of speaking, by the idea of the creation of one of your movies. Now, understand that many individuals will look at the representation that has been presented in that movie as a very fear-based idea. Everything is being destroyed. The entire planet is coming apart at the seams. Very few people will survive. It is the end of the world as we know it. All right. Not really. I guarantee you will wake up on December 22nd, 2012. There will still be a planet. It will still be a relatively nice day. However, Look at the great service you have given yourself. Because the idea is that by getting all of the fear-based examples, all of the fear-based representations out in a movie on the screen over there, you don't have to experience it in your physical reality anymore. That's one way to understand how you do these things. This is how you give yourself an opportunity to face the issues, face the fears, by reflecting it back to yourself from what you call your silver screen, so that you can examine what you really believe, what you really feel about these ideas, and ask yourself whether or not you really prefer that kind of interpretation of the energy, or whether you really prefer another reality. So this is, in a sense, a way that you have of creating a catharsis for yourselves, of examining these beliefs very deeply, and doing it in a manner that actually allows you to experience it in a sort of a roller coaster fun park kind of way. So that it's all right to examine the fear, but you're doing it in a setting where you're with a lot of people, you're having the experience together, you're supporting each other in that experience, and you're having a good time doing it, so that it's not quite so scary to examine it. Thus, then, you give yourself the ability to recognize that by having it out on the screen, you can see that you've gotten it out of your system. And thus, then, you give yourself the opportunity to choose, to clear the deck, clear the slate, start from scratch, square one, all these lovely phrases that you have in your language, and begin again with a new idea of what you would like your world to be. Now, yes, your December 21st, your winter solstice in 2012, is definitely a demarcation line. It is a demarcation line, a threshold crossing for the idea, as we perceive it anyway, of the collective consciousness going from a world where the collective energy is more negative than positive to a world where the collective energy is slightly more positive, finally, than negative. So you are tipping the scale. You are crossing a line. You are crossing a threshold and crossing a threshold. And from that point forward, now that after that date, the collective consciousness of your planet will be slightly more positive than negative for the first time in many thousands of years, that means it can snowball, it can accelerate, it can pick up speed. You can build on that positive energy. And thus then you can eventually create your reality to be what you prefer it to be. As we have said, it is also the end of what has been euphemistically called the quarantine of your planet. The idea not again being that on December 22nd all our spaceships will land, but the idea being that after that date they could, because we are no longer holding ourselves back because of our own laws, but we are simply from that date forward taking the cue from all of you as to when you collectively say you are ready for open contact with other civilizations. So the quarantine goes away on that date as well. It will still be up to you to exercise your full responsibility, your full creativity, your full ability to create the reality that you prefer, to change the vibrational frequency of your reality to make it more conducive for positive experience, for the idea of creative experience, for the idea of open contact with other civilizations, to build and build and build upon that, to create the new systems that you wish to have on your planet that will then be put in place to replace the old systems when they fall away, when they crumble. The idea, thus, again, remember, being that you're not actually changing your world, you're changing yourselves. And in changing the vibrational frequency of yourselves, you are shifting yourselves to a parallel reality, Earth, that is already representative of the vibration you wish to see reflected back to you in your illusion of physical reality. So remember, you change nothing, you change no one but yourself. But when you change yourself, you actually shift yourself to an already existing parallel Earth that is already more representative of the vibration you have changed yourself to. The other Earth that was there a moment ago, that you were in a moment ago, is still there, but it's no longer experienced by you. It's no longer visible to you. But the people that choose to remain in that vibration will still experience whatever that vibration has to offer. But you will have moved on to another vibrational Earth reality, and again, and again, and again, and again, as you constantly shift your energy, you will constantly shift through multiple parallel Earth realities that are more and more and more and more representative of the vibration of your true natural self, if that's the direction, of course, that you choose. Don't let us force you. If you wish to remain in a misery reality, by all means, please do so. That's your choice. We would strongly suggest that you choose to be more of your natural selves and so experience the shift to more positive and more expansive and more collectively conscious vibrational parallel Earth realities. But, well, that's just us. Now, 15 minutes and counting. The reason that this is titled 15 minutes is because, as was explained, we are going to talk about the idea of the plasticity of the brain. Every single thought you have, every single feeling you have, every single belief you have actually changes the wiring, the literal neurological wiring of the brain. Literally changes the pathways. Literally. Even your own scientists now understand this. The idea being thus then that when the pathway is changed, it represents a new frequency, a new idea, a new belief. It represents what has been imposed upon it. So that from that point forward, when it goes through its plastic state and in a sense becomes hardwired again temporarily, the hardwiring it settles into will represent a pathway that is more representative of the vibration that you have changed it into, that has been responsible for changing that neurological pathway, and thus, in a sense, creating an easier path, a quicker path, a more superconductive path for whatever vibration was changing that neurological pathway, be it positive or negative. So it reinforces itself. The idea being that it takes approximately, in your terms of time, 15 minutes from the moment that the thought, the belief, the feeling begins to plasticize the neurological pathway till the moment that that neurological pathway becomes hardwired again. It takes about 15 minutes to go through that complete process. Therefore, in doing what we are doing in this transmission, and in examining beliefs tomorrow, and then in doing the 15-minute holotope experience, what we will be taking advantage of is that 15-minute solidification time span, so that when we start introducing new ideas, new beliefs, new perspectives, that you will then, according to your own desire and your own timing, begin to take into your brain, begin to rewire your neurological paths with those new ideas. Going through the holotope experience will give you the ability to ensure that the rewiring will go in the most positive direction possible, will imbue the most positive frequency possible, so that by the time it becomes hardwired, you are at least giving yourself the opportunity for more opportunity to experience more synchronicity, more hardwiring of the neurological pathways of your brain that is more in alignment with the positive vibration you say you prefer regarding the reality you wish to experience. So it is as if we are doing this to create an ability for more plasticity, to make the changes more frequent according to your desires, more capable of making those changes in your neurological pathways, and then giving you a permission slip that allows you to experience the actual process of rebuilding that pathway through its entire 15-minute cycle, and in doing so in that way, building it into a pathway that is much more hyper-conductive and hyper-conducive to hardwiring itself in a manner that will allow your pathways to be more aligned, more receptive to the downloads of the higher mind, and thus give you as a physical personality more alignment in your experience of physical reality. Does this make sense? Yes. All right, so basically speaking, this transmission, parts 1, 2, and 3, essentially are, well, brain surgery. No real anesthetic required, except the idea of you falling into that neutral state of allowance, acceptance, self-love that will allow you the greatest degree of freedom to allow these changes to occur in the most positive direction possible. Yes, we recognize here and there a little negative belief, a little fear may creep in, but that's all right. We will deal with them as they come up, because that's what tomorrow morning is for. In examining the actual X-ray structure of beliefs, you will have a very potent permission slip tool to be able to recognize the beliefs for what they are, see them in the full exposed light of their true structure, their true nature, and how it is they actually are capable of reinforcing themselves when you don't prefer them to. We will teach you all the little tricks that beliefs use, in a sense, to reinforce themselves. You see, beliefs in general, in order for you to have a physical reality experience at all, must by definition have a mechanism built into them that reinforces the belief as real. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a physical reality experience if it didn't do that. But the idea is that when you create, through definitions, a negative belief, the negative belief will also use the same mechanism of self-reinforcement, but it will add an mechanism of self-reinforcement, but it will add an entire array of tricks and tools to constantly reinforce itself, to constantly make it seem as if no other belief is possible, no other belief is true. And it is this array of secondary level tricks, secondary level belief system definitions that allow the idea of negative beliefs to seem like such brick walls, so impenetrable, so unchangeable, so difficult to dissolve. But we'll explore them, we'll expose them, bring them into the light of your consciousness, and show you very clearly what the tricks are so that you will not be fooled by them again. Is it a deal? Yes. All right. Let us thus then begin, first of all, by a little bit of a pre-experience, a pre-meditation, if you will. Relax. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in and let it out. And relax your body, relax your mind, relax your emotions, relax your soul. Relax your expectations, relax your assumptions. Right here, at least for right now, at least for this moment, you are free from worry, free from any concern, free from fear. And if fear comes up, just invite it in. Give it a place. Tell it to sit in the corner for a moment. That you'll deal with it in a moment. But for right now, you're giving yourself a little bit of a mini vacation. Take another deep breath in and let it out. And feel all of the day melt away. Take another deep breath in and let it out. And just for a moment realize you have absolutely nothing in the world to be concerned about. You have right now no job to think about, no bills to pay, no worries, no deadlines. Just you. You're just here, right now, just for this moment. It's all right. The world will still be there when you open your eyes. But for right now, in this space, you are in a bubble reality, another reality. Take another deep breath in and let it out. And imagine, in whatever way, shape, or form works for your imagination, imagine your brain and see all the little neurological pathways. You can see them in any way, shape, or form you wish. You may see them as wiring. You may see them as fluid. You may see them as crystals. You may see them as a drawing. You may see them as a pattern of any kind of configuration whatsoever, but just know that that is representative of the idea of the pathways of your brain. And the pathways, like a computer program, in a sense, are representative of different ideas, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, definitions. This is, in a sense, a basic representation of the personality mask, the artificial personality construct that you use to explore the experience of physical reality. It is not really fundamentally who you are as a being, as a consciousness. It is a filtering system. Just in the same way that if you go diving in the sea, you bring along a mask or a snorkel or a diving tank, the idea of the neurological pathways of the brain, the antenna that receives the downloads from a higher mind, from non-physical reality, that creates the template of your physical experience, is simply such an artificial device to allow you to dive down into the experience vibrationally of physical reality and explore around for a while. So, the idea that we are going to be undertaking is to make sure that this diving mask is as clean and clear as it can be, to give you an unobstructive view, as unobstructive as possible in physical reality. We're going to rewire to make sure that your breathing passage to the tube, snorkel, or tanks is clear, that your oxygen mixture is appropriate, that you won't get the bends. You will allow yourself to work with this template, however it presents itself to you. Sometimes it might even look like a map. Sometimes it might look like an abstract painting. It doesn't matter how it presents itself to you. Whatever way your imagination decides is correct, and even if it keeps changing, that's correct too. Because your imagination is keyed to your frequency, and whatever way it presents it is the correct way for you. So please don't judge it. Just let it be. Just play with it. Just work with it. Just make it your own. Just identify right now whatever way or ways that imagination presents to you the symbolic representation of the neurological pathways of your brain, and just look at that. Just sense it. Just feel it. Just turn it around. Hold it in your hand. Turn it upside down, inside out. If it is two-dimensional, fine. If it is three-dimensional, fine. If it is multidimensional, fine. Just look at it. Just examine it. Just realize this is your antenna. You will be working with this in new ways. Just for the fun of it, right now, in your imagination, take one neurological path, however it represents itself to you, reconnect it somewhere else. Now reconnect the same one somewhere else. And again, somewhere else. As you do this, be very, very quiet within yourself and just get a sensation of how that feels every time you do it. Just probe around. See what happens when you connect the neurological path here. Now see how it feels when you connect it there. See what happens. See if you have any other kinds of sensory experiences or feelings that come up, or ideas or inspirations that suddenly come to you, or images that present themselves unexpectedly, or memories that may come back in a sense. Just play around with that one circuit and just keep connecting it to different other nodal points, other places that you can connect it to. Keep redrawing it. And each time you do it, whatever pace is appropriate for you. You don't have to do it fast. You don't have to follow exactly the way we are saying it. But as you do it, just start to pay attention to the differences you experience when you do that. And if you seem to experience no difference at the moment, let that be all right as well. There is no wrong way to do this right now. But I guarantee you, even by doing this, you are doing something. You are starting the ball rolling. You are starting to unravel that ball of twine. And just by doing this right now, this little tiny exercise right now, you are going to make it easier for you to unlock from what you prefer to unlock from, and lock into what you prefer to lock into. But at the same time, you will retain a malleability, a flexibility, a plasticity unprecedented in your reality. You will know that you always have the ability, one way or the other, to rewire your neurological path to be more receptive as an antenna to the downloads from the higher mind. your neurological path to be more receptive as an antenna to the downloads from the higher mind. That you have the ability to redraw the blueprint, to reorganize the template that you use upon which to build your physical reality experience. Take a deep breath in and let it out. And just connect that little pathway now to one last place. Find a place that feels comfortable, good, cozy, peaceful, warm, cool, loving, pretty, tasty. Whatever to you feels correct. And just leave it there for the moment. Breathe in one more time. And as you breathe out, let that neurological pathway begin to crystallize. Let it begin to hardwire into that wondrous place of perfect peace, harmony, joy, and love. Just that one little thread, that one little path, that one little string, that one little line, that one little wire will now begin to make all the difference in the world, because as you reconnect it to that new place, it will now send new signals through that nodal point to other wires, which will allow them to begin to also restructure themselves at whatever pace is comfortable for you, so that you know that just by having done this one thing tonight, as we progress in this communication, slowly and silently beneath your skull, your brain will be changing in ways, rewiring itself in ways that will already become more conducive to self-revelation, self-awareness, self-love, self-validation. So just let that sink in. Take another deep breath. And hold it, hold it, hold it, and blow it out. Open your eyes. And just be aware that going on right now in your brain is the subtle yet profound process of rewiring as we continue this transmission. In return for the gift you have given us in co-creating this interaction this day of your time, we ask you now, in what way, through questions, may we be of service to you?
Thank you, Bashar. There's a few people that are going to start lining up now for questions.
What? Lining up like little neurological circuits. Let's see what kind of rewiring we can do.
Is there any way we can talk to our higher mind directly, like in a conversation, or can you teach a permission slip to help us do so?
All right, two things. Number one, remember that a direct conversation is being had when you receive energy messages from the higher mind that translate as the sensation of passion in your body. And by acting on that passion, because action is the language of physical reality, you are talking directly back to the higher mind, saying, all right, I heard you, and I will act on what you have given me. That is a direct conversation, and that's the most natural way that it can occur. However, number two, as we have often said, when you are speaking with us, you are actually speaking with your higher mind, using us as a reason to speak to your higher mind in a way that you're used to having conversations. So in that sense, you're speaking to your higher mind right now. And any other being that can perform the function of functioning as a mask for your higher mind can allow you to have a typical conversation with your higher mind in that same context. You can even, again, use us as an excuse to talk to your higher mind by saying things like, when you find yourself challenged, what would Bashar say? What would Jesus say? What would Buddha say? And you can, in your imagination, then have the conversation if you truly understand what kind of response such beings as myself and the others would give to you, then that can actually be a response coming from your higher mind, again, using us as a way of triggering the conversation that you can have with your higher mind, pretending that you're talking with us. Because we are happy to form and function as a representation of your own higher mind to make it easier for you to know that it's easy to connect, it's easy to have a conversation. But going back to the first idea, it's a much more natural way and a much more fluid way, and it keeps you moving through life to simply accept that the more natural conversation between you and your higher mind is one of receiving the information in an energy form that allows you to feel the passion that gets you to move forward and take an action in that direction.
And the level of the higher mind that you're describing, that you can have these conversations with, what would be the frequency range of that consciousness level?
Above 333,000 cycles per second.
All the way up to?
Well, it depends. The higher mind can have quite a large range to it, depending upon what it needs to adjust its frequency to tap into information that the physical personality may need. It's not, however, unusual for the general range to be, and we understand that this appears in your reality as a kind of a multiple synchronistically, but it can go from about 333,000 cycles per second, normally, generally, with exceptions, up to about 666,000 cycles per second is usually all that's necessary. Beyond the 666,000 cycles per second, you're now getting into the range of the soul, which can go up to about 777 cycles per second, thousands, of course. And then the oversouls are usually above 777,000, maybe up to 999,000. And again, these are all convenient figures for you that relate to your physical reality as you understand how vibrations exist hierarchically to represent different levels and layers, and there can be different ways of looking at this. So don't get stuck on these numbers. We're giving you a generalization in the same way that you could say, well, where does the air end and where does space begin, or where does water begin and ice begin? There's some fluidity to these barriers and these gray zones, so to speak, as to where transitions are made. But I'm giving you a general understanding of these things that can serve you in the way that you need to be served for now.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Could you tell us some more information about counterparts? What are the most common and important reasons and purposes to meet counterparts in one's life? Is it to work on themes or to assist and support each other? Do we often fall in love with a counterpart and feel a sense of great familiarity when meeting them? And what specific emotions might we have when we meet them? Do you have any advice on how we can recognize counterparts? Are there specific traits?
In some senses, yes to all of it in general, because it can be any and all of those things. It doesn't have to be. As we have said, sometimes a counterpart can be someone who really pushes your buttons that you may not even really like, but they're serving the purpose of getting you to face certain things and helping you become more of who you are. Now, it doesn't take a counterpart to do that, but sometimes counterparts will come into your life to do those kinds of things. And the full range of emotions can be felt depending upon the theme of the counterpart and why you've attracted that particular counterpart into your life, what it is that it needs to remind you of as you explore yourself and become more of who you are. So it can really be any or all of those things. Just depends upon the circumstance and the theme that you're exploring.
Okay, thanks. This person is asking, how do I find my excitement? How can I help others find their excitement?
As we have said quite often, start small. Again, when we say follow your passion, follow your excitement, it's not a difficult thing to find at all. Asking the question today must obviously in some sense have been important to you, been part of your excitement to ask this question. So it's not hard to find that question. And therefore look around at the ordinary, as you say, typical things in your life that you're capable of acting on. Taking a walk, reading a book, eating a meal, talking to a friend, seeing a movie, what have you. Just look for the one that has even a little bit more excitement, attraction, curiosity to it, that you gravitate to for whatever reason, even if it's just the tiniest bit more attractiveness and excitement than any other choice that you're able to take an action on, and act on that one first. By continuing to do that, every time you come to a crossroads and say what to do next, just pick the thing, no matter what level it's on, that has more attractiveness, more excitement, more curiosity in it, that you're able to act on than any other thing, and then do that one next. So the idea is that if you keep doing that, you're always acting on your excitement. Excitement and passion doesn't mean you're jumping up and down or running around with your hair on fire. It can be a very simple, very peaceful process that gives you a continuation that can snowball into bigger and bigger things if you keep doing it from that level. But acting on your excitement and figuring out what your excitement is very simple if you keep it simple and don't think you have to start from some grand idea. Just everyday things can be representative of things that could excite you more than any other thing.
Good day. Good day. The title of this transmission is How the Oversoul Works. We are going to explain a little bit about the different levels of oversoul that can exist. Sometimes this has come up as a question of reincarnation, where a question has been asked about the idea of whether or not people reincarnate, but also whether or not, as has been said in some of your stories and some of your legends, people can reincarnate as different things, such as animals or insects or plants or what have you. Now, as we have said, time in a sense is an illusion, and therefore no one really reincarnates in the classic linear sense, although you can create an experience or an appearance of reincarnation. But this is primarily viewed from your linear perspective, so it just looks like it works out that way, where one life happens after another, after another, after another. But that's not actually mechanically, as we have explained, what's happening, because everything exists at once. Everyone, everything, everywhere, every when, all exists at the same time. Therefore, being that everything does exist at the same time, what you are actually experiencing are cross connections, energetic links to other beings that exist at the same time you do, in the same moment that you do. And by making those links, but coming from a linear perspective, you're interpreting those energetic links along which information is being downloaded to you, experiences being shared with you, and you might be sharing your experiences and information with these other beings at other times in your so-called history, past or future. And you interpret that information sharing as if it's a memory, as if it's something from the past, as if you, as the individual you are, lived before. The soul that you are lived before. Again, this is not the case. All things are happening at once, but you interpret those links in a past, present, future sort of way from your linear physical reality perspective. Now, recently the question was asked that an individual experienced a synchronous event with regard to certain animals and wondered, after members of their family had passed into spirit, linearly speaking, were these animals a reincarnation of those individuals, because it seemed to them that the behavior of the animals somehow reflected the people that had passed on, that they were, in a sense, messages from those people. Now, in a sense, this can be so. But again, it's not that that person came back as an animal, reincarnationally speaking. Again, the Oversoul contains all of these things simultaneously. The human souls, the animal souls, the plant souls, insect souls, what have you. All at once, on a larger scale, the larger, higher version of an Oversoul. And there are different levels to this, or can be. There can be an Oversoul of human souls. There can be an Oversoul of animal souls, an Oversoul of plant souls, insect souls, even rock consciousness. But the idea is that there can be these oversouls that are differentiated specifically for those groups, but there can be a greater oversoul that encapsulates all those things, the oversouls of the collective of any given world, or even oversouls of collectives of many different worlds, or galaxies, or universes. So on the level of the oversoul, that is something that also can contain the human souls and the animal souls and the insect souls and the plant souls and the rock souls, soul equating to the idea of awareness or consciousness in some way, shape, or form, then the same oversoul extension that might have been a human that was alive with you, linearly speaking, can also send an extension of an animal soul from the same level, from the same collective oversoul, and it will contain a frequency of energy, a signature vibration that will let you feel as if it's coming from the human soul that you knew as a physical being, but it's simply the same oversoul sending another extension from itself as an animal that contains a similar vibration enough to recognize it as coming from the same oversoul. Because it's all about the idea of recognizing the vibration of the theme of the human. Themes can definitely cross into human extensions, animal extensions, plant extensions, what have you, so that you can recognize the commonality of a theme vibration that exists for the human, for the animal, for the plant, and thus you may feel or believe that you're actually seeing the human reincarnated as an animal or a plant, when in fact you're simply seeing another extension of the same collective oversoul that contains the same vibrational theme within it that you would recognize as being connected to the person that you knew. So you have to realize how many levels the oversoul can exist in, how many different ways it can express itself depending upon that level. You can look at some of the higher collective oversouls almost like smaller versions of all that is, because they can contain many, many things. Now again, this doesn't mean that just because they're extending one thing that all the others are just sort of waiting in the wings. Remember, time is an illusion and everything is happening at once. So all these expressions of an oversoul, all the different versions of the souls that they may represent, are going on at the same time, all living, all expressing themselves in the same moment, without a time factor that you would recognize as linear. So it's not like any of these are idle, waiting to be extended. They're all being extended, they're all being expressed, they're all being experienced, they're all having their own experiences, all in the same moment of existence, because there is only one moment in existence. I know that this can be a little bit challenging for third dimensional and fourth dimensional beings to wrap their minds around, but that's all right. You will, as you ponder this, simply get the hang of it eventually. And it's not that important that you do in terms of your daily lives, but it's important to understand how things work, mechanically speaking, energetically speaking, so that there is no confusion in your definitions about what's happening. So you can understand that something can be created as a reincarnational experience, as if it's the person you knew coming back as an animal or a plant, but simply understand mechanically that that's just an experience that you're being given so that you can recognize the thematic connection between these things, have some familiarity with the messages being delivered to you coming from that oversoul, but that all these things are separate unto themselves. All these things are having their own individuated experiences as humans, as animals, as plants, as insects, as rocks, as whatever. And it's all happening at the same time mechanically. But the idea of whatever it is you're receiving as a linear experience is important for you to recognize the synchronicity therein and the connections therein that are allowing you to recognize messages being delivered to you in some way, shape, or form by the same oversoul that delivered the soul, the individual human soul that you were familiar with, and simply reaching out to you in another way that is symbolically representative of what the human soul may wish to send you, if they wish to do it in that way, or the oversoul wishes to do it in that way. That would be representative synchronistically of a symbol that works for you, that carries the same theme, but is delivered by a different form of messenger that is also important to recognize in your life as a symbol that works for you, with meaning that you've given it, that you've defined it with, synchronistically in your life to propel you forward in exploring what that symbol means to you. So, for example, if a human you knew that is passed on, suddenly a hummingbird shows up, and you somehow recognize through synchronicity that it's thematically connected to the human that you knew, then understand, again, mechanically, it's not actually the reincarnated human, but it's an extension of the same level of oversoul, and coming in a form, the hummingbird, that symbolically represents something to you, the definitions you've given to different objects and things in life, that works in your favor to suss out for yourself what that symbol represents. A lot of times, symbolically, a hummingbird on your planet represents the idea of acceleration, speeding things up energetically, vibrationally. So it may be a message through the oversoul from the human soul, with the extension of the hummingbird saying, if you raise your vibration, if you accelerate your vibration, you'll be able to connect to the human soul that you knew in a spiritual way. So you have to look at the context of the symbol being delivered to you from the oversoul, and not necessarily just think, oh, it's the human reincarnating as a hummingbird. Again, the experience is valid as a symbol, but it's not necessarily representative of the mechanism that's going on, because the oversoul can extend itself and does extend itself simultaneously in 1,000 different ways. Recognizing how the mechanics works helps you interpret the symbol a little bit more clearly, while not necessarily letting go of the connection that you feel to the human that you knew as a physical being. So ponder that, if you will, and let it sink in, and see what happens in the increase in your ability to perceive synchronicity and extensions of the oversoul in a variety of different ways, while not losing touch with the idea that the human soul may also be involved in sending that message to you, but in a way that works best for you in the symbols you understand. We thank you for allowing us to share this idea of this different new level, higher level of the oversoul and its capabilities as a mini version of all that is, functioning simultaneously. And we ask in return, in what way may we now be of service to you? Please begin with your dialogues and questions, if you wish.
Good day, Bashar.
Good day, good day.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
How are you?
Perfect, and you?
I'm doing great.
All right. What would you like to discuss?
Most of today's questions are going to be related to the formula. I'm wondering if you can reiterate that, first of all.
Yes. Number 1, act on your passion, whatever contains the most passion, no matter what it is, first. Act on it to the best you are able. Number 2, taking it as far as you can until you can take it no further, until the excitement wanes, making sure you're not the one dampening the excitement with your own belief system. If you're not, then just act on it as best you can, taking it as far as you can till you can take it no further. Number 3, act on your passion with no insistence, no assumption as to what the outcome ought to look like, where you think it should take you, so on and so forth, because you really don't know what the best outcome really needs to look like. Number 4, remain in a positive state no matter what manifests. Even if what manifests is something you objectively don't prefer, you have to know from a positive position that it's got to be there for a reason that could serve you in a positive way. And if you maintain that positive vibration, you will understand how to use what you don't prefer in a way that you do. And it will serve you. You will extract the benefit from the situation rather than negativity from it by remaining in a positive state and knowing that it's got to be there for a reason. Those are the 4 steps that open up all the tools in the kit that begin to function automatically for you when you follow that 4-step formula as precisely as you possibly can.
Okay, and that's exactly what these questions are about, fine-tuning my precision in following those steps. So
All right.
the first question is, when you say excitement or passion, that also means most positive feeling. Is that accurate?
It can be. Again, it's what you're attracted to first. And this goes for any level in your life. In other words, it can be very simple. At any moment, you can have a number of choices available to you of things that you could take some action on. Taking a walk, reading a book, talking to a friend, eating a meal, what have you. Whichever one seems a little bit more exciting, a little bit more attractive, getting you to focus on it with some kind of idea of that's what feels right now, do that one first, as far as you can take it, until you can take it no further. And just keep doing that every time the excitement wanes or you've completed that particular action. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Very much so.
All right.
The next question is, do you have some sort of mechanism for discerning when, say, I'm making my excitement appear as my anxiety or my anxiety appear as excitement? Is there a mechanism to assist in discerning that?
Yes, it's called self-honesty. All you have to do is be aware that you really, when you stop and think about it, when you let yourself be your true self, you know the difference between what feels exciting and what feels like anxiety. All of you do. So it's just honest self-examination, honest self-investigation. You know the difference if you are honest with yourself.
I really do think I do. Can I give an example of something I would call subtle, so to speak, to me at least?
Of course.
So, for example, most of the time when I feel like exercising or when I want to exercise, it is my excitement. Now, sometimes it's me saying, well, maybe I should be exercising in this case. And in those cases, it can be counterproductive if my body actually wants rest in that case. But the reason that I guess it's subtle to me is because I just assume, which I know isn't the wisest idea, I kind of assume that some things are almost always positive if they fit into a particular routine, but maybe the routine's off. Okay, I see what you're saying now. This is making more sense.
Yes. Yes. You just have to realize that, in a sense, and this is a generalization, I know there might be exceptions, because sometimes it can be your excitement saying, hey, why don't you exercise now? But sometimes if you actually have to ask the question of yourself, should I exercise now? That might be an indication that that's coming from anxiety and a sense of what you're expected or should do, as opposed to it actually being your natural excitement, which if it was your natural excitement, you would probably just be exercising without even thinking about it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Now, there can be exceptions to this. That's why it takes honest self-examination, self-investigation to know the difference. But if you just stop and think about it, you can probably tell the difference.
Yeah, I completely agree, actually.
All right. Next.
Can you deliberately develop a sort of language between you and your higher mind, a sort of agreement where maybe this equals that sort of agreement? Can you do that sometimes?
There is already a language between you and your higher mind. That's what we're talking about. Passion, that sensation, excitement, curiosity, love, passion, creativity, that is your physical translation of the communication from your higher mind, because it's speaking to you in an energy language. But that's how your body translates that energy language. Passion is what lets you know you are being communicated with by your higher mind. And the message is, this is you. This is who you are. Act on this now. That's what the higher mind is telling you when you have that sensation. So there's already a direct communication. Your response needs to be the taking of the action, because the language of physical reality is action, not words. So when you do a physical action, that's when the higher mind knows you have heard it and are responding to it. And then it can send you more messages. Do this next. Now do this. Now do this. By sending that sensation that you translate as passion. Act on this now. Act on this one now. Following that thread of passion, which is the communication from the higher mind. And the more you keep acting, the more you will be given more opportunities to act on your passion. If you're not acting, you're not speaking the language of physical reality, you're not communicating with the higher mind, you're not responding to it in the proper language, And if you're not acting on what it's already said to you, what it's already given you to act on, why should it send you more opportunities to act on your passion if you're not willing to act on what it's already sent you? The communication is already there. That's what we're describing.
Okay, that's perfect. Yes, I just had to act on it more, I suppose.
Yes.
So next question is related to acting to the best of my ability.
Yes.
Once you're in the activity or in the action, should that be your dominant priority, your primary priority, to be acting to the best of your ability?
Why wouldn't it be?
Maybe it could be still being in tune with that sensitivity. I guess that would still qualify as acting to the best of your ability. Okay.
The idea of acting to the best of your ability also takes into account the parameters that exist in your particular reality, in your society, what you're actually capable of doing while maintaining integrity. In other words, you're not breaking your laws, you're not being unethical, things like that, because your society says we've agreed that these are the parameters that everyone will operate in order to be of service to everyone else and allow everyone to do what they need to do. So the idea is not only in your own personal ability to act, but also to what you have agreed are the parameters that allow you to take an action. That's all you need to understand about act on the best to your ability, taking it as far as you can until you can take it no further. And if you cannot act on it any further because of any of these parameters, that's your first clue that you need to look around for the next thing that contains more excitement than anything else and act on that next. Because whether it seems connected on the surface or not, the excitement lets you know it is connected to your path.
Perfect. Yeah, makes sense. So again, relative to best of acting to the best of my ability.
Yes.
There's a rule that I've heard not a rule, but a suggestion going around, the 85% rule, where you act to the best of your ability to about 85% so that you leave that 15% for sort of being more relaxed and being more receptive.
Well, if you want to look at it that way, that's fine. But that's also saying that there's some kind of an assumption that if you act 100% as best you can, that you can't be relaxed. Why would you buy into something like that if you don't necessarily prefer to?
That's a great point too. My goodness. Okay.
Do it whatever way works for you. But the point is that that's just a way that some people have of interpreting the idea that works for them. But it's not a hard line fact that it is literally accurate in terms of percentages. Acting 100%, really, if you're following your passion, would by definition include your ability to relax, because why would your passion contain stress?
Mm-hmm.
You follow? That's a misunderstanding of the definition of passion. That somehow you have to shortchange it in order to be relaxed, instead of understanding that you can go full steam ahead, but full steam ahead would also mean that there is the capability of doing that in a way that allows you to be relaxed.
Perfect.
It's a more inclusive, holistic understanding that the definition is the definition, and a different definition is a different reality.
Okay. I agree again. Now, acting as far as you can. So to me, there are three possibilities that I see about this, and one would be until something else is more exciting.
Yes.
Two would be until it's fully resolved or it's come to full fruition.
Yes.
So of course there can be more connections and aspects, however, full fruition. And lastly would be if you appear to be stuck and it might be becoming seemingly excessively difficult, perhaps it would be time to do something else.
Or first, always first. If your excitement or ability wanes, first examine whether your beliefs are making it appear to wane, or whether it is really waning as part of your synchronicity.
Yes. So if it feels excessively difficult, to me, that would mean there's an opportunity to break it down more and see if there's more gradual steps that you could take so that it is easier.
Or completely different steps that are more in alignment with the way that works for you.
Okay.
If you have determined, however, that no such steps exist, and it's truly your excitement waning synchronistically to show you that something else needs to be done, then if you are, again, honest in your self-examination as to whether you're the one dampening the excitement or whether it's dampening on its own synchronistically, then you'll know what to do.
Okay.
Because many times you could continue to do something similar if you simply allow yourself to do it in a more exciting way. That can sometimes be the message. You may not be doing it in the way that actually works for you, can be creating the difficulty that you experience.
That makes a lot of sense. Next question is relative to the expectation or having no expectation or insistence on the outcome. And that is
no assumption or assistance. You can expect that something will happen, but you just don't have to be very specific about it. What you can expect is that if you allow it to be the natural outcome, it will serve you best. You can expect that. But when we say expectation, we mean insistence or assumption of a particular form that in your mind's estimation may not actually be the best outcome, yet it may have been trained to think that it must be.
Okay. So one example of this would be, say it's the NBA Finals and you're at Game 7, and before the game, maybe the professional player is visualizing and vibrating winning the championship for the purpose of connecting to that parallel reality stream or being...
That's fine. That's fine. That's the visualization part. And it is important to stay in that vibration, but drop any insistence on what the outcome odds to be, because you don't actually know what the best outcome for you would be until it happens.
So could losing the championship be the best outcome? Oh, I suppose.
Yes, because then what that puts the person in touch with may be the most important thing they actually need to get in touch with. Because remember, it's not necessarily about winning the game. It might be more important for them to have a knowledge of the reaction they have to losing. Or maybe not winning the game will create a different scenario than otherwise would have happened that would actually put them where they need to be. That's actually more important to them than having won the game and winding up somewhere else. You have to allow yourself to know that what happens is what needs to happen. As long as you are in the state of being that is the best state of being, the state of being of allowing for the best possible outcome, but not insisting what best means, then you're in the proper state.
Okay. So you might become more focused. Your desire might be stronger. You might take different actions for the next year because of the outcome, etc.
Yes, and it might teach you something about yourself in a very different way and in things that have nothing to do with the game at all.
Okay. Wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Again, that's the importance of the fourth step of the formula. You remain in a positive state no matter what happens, because it's not about what happens. It's about what you do with what happens that matters. And if you remain in a positive state no matter what happens, you will always get a benefit from it, even if it's not the one you thought you would get. But you won't get that, and you won't experience that if you don't remain in the same positive state in which you created the experience. This is the secret of visualization. By all means, you can imagine and visualize a particular, a specific outcome as the thing that gets you in that excited state. But as soon as you're in the excited state, you have to drop the picture, because you don't really know for sure that that's really the best outcome. Let your higher mind bring you what you actually need at that moment that is truly going to serve you the best. And you have to know that that's what's going to happen. Even if what manifests is something that you objectively don't prefer, if it manifested, then you have to know it's there for a reason that can serve you. And by staying in a positive state, you will get the benefit of why that's there, instead of insisting that something has gone wrong and then suddenly you cannot get the benefit. You can only see the negative side of it.
Perfect. Would you say that having no insistence on the outcome also assists with being more process oriented, more focused on what is needed out of you in order to even aim to do what you want to do?
It's not about what you want to do. It's about what you need to do. And what you need to do will be shown to you in the present moment.
Okay. How do plans fit into the formula?
Again, you can plan. You can plan if you want as part of the process, as long as you allow yourself to have a plan where the plan can change according to the flow of what happens.
Okay, perfect. So I kind of see there's almost a path of no resistance or a path of very little resistance, and there's a path of least resistance. Yes. And they're kind of different pacings in a sense. They have different.
Well, yes and no. When we use the term path of least resistance, that allows for there to be an experience of no resistance at all, because then that would be the least.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
We're not really talking about degrees in that sense. Just allow for the path of least resistance. That could mean no resistance at all.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear. That's great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Good day.
You too.
Always.